Hey y'all, so today we're going to be working on 8.2, the law of sines. And so there is these 4 cases and only 2 of them work for the law of sines. And so those 2 are case 1, which is angle side angle or side angle angle. And then the other one is case 2, which is side side angle. The only thing special about side side angle is if you ever have one of those as a triangle, you may have 2 triangles in one. So let's look at some examples. So here is the formula for law of sines. It's just ratios. And so for this first example, I'm going to first draw my triangle, ABC. And I'm going to label what we have. So A, B, C. Angle A is 40. Angle B is 60, and then side A is 4. Now I just set up the ratio. And this, first we need to check though if it fell into case 1 or case 2. And we have a side, angle, angle. So that is part of our side, angle, angle, case 1. So now I'm going to set up the ratio. So sine 40 over 4 equals sine 60 over b. Now I can cross multiply and get 4 sine 60 equals sine 40b. Divide by sine 40 and I get 4 sine 60 divided by sine 40 equals b. When you plug this in your calculator, you get b equals 5.39. Now, to find angle C, we know that triangles add up to 180 degrees. So we're going to do 180 minus 40 minus 60 to get that angle C. And that equals 80 degrees. So now I'm going to set up my ratio again. So sine 40 over 4 equals sine 80 over C. And cross multiply, I get C sine 40 equals 4 sine 80, which C equals 4 sine 80 divided by sine 40. Plug that in my calculator and I get C equals 6.13. And I went back and I labeled everything that we found on our triangle. Alright, next we have solve the triangle ABC. So first I'm going to again draw a triangle ABC. This is A, B, C. Angle A is 35 degrees, and then B is 15 degrees, and then side C is 5. And then this is an angle side angle, which falls into case 1. So set up our proportions. We can do, well, we can't set up a proportion because we need to know that angle C first. So I'm going to find it by doing 180 minus 35 minus 15, and I get angle C equals 130 degrees. Now I can set up a proportion. So you need both the angle and a side length. So sine 130 over 5 equals, let's find side A first. Sine 35 over A. Cross multiply, I would get A equals 5 times sine, 5 sine 35 over sine 130. Plug that in the calculator, I get that this equals 3.74. Okay, now side B. So sine 15 over B equals sine 130 over C. Cross multiply, C is 5. cross multiply, I get b equals 5 sine 15 over sine 130. Plug it in. Sine equals 1.69. I went back and labeled everything. Okay. Now going on to that case 2 of side-side angle, you can always remember it's the one that's going to cause you either 2 triangles or no triangles, because if you did it backwards, it spells bad word. So it's our odd one out. Okay, so solve the triangle. We have a side, side, and an angle. So I'm going to draw this triangle. And I have, we'll say A, B, C. A is 40 degrees. Little a is 3. Little b is 2. So that's side-side angle. So the first thing I can do is set up a proportion, because I have a, both this angle and side, and find b. So sine 40 over 3 equals sine b over 2. I'm going to cross multiply and get sine b equals 2/3 sine 40. To solve for b, you need to take the inverse, and so sine equals 0.43. Okay, so now that we have side b, or angle that 43, we know that 0.43, we know that there can be two. We want to check if there can be 2 angles, and we know that sine between 0 and 180 on our unit twice, here and here, always. So we can do 180 minus that 0.43. So the sine inverse of 0.43 is 25.4. So we can do 180 minus 25.4, and we get b can also equal 154.6 degrees. So we want to ask ourselves, can b also equal 154.6? And that is no, because a plus b has to be less than 180, because you need to be able to get another angle for c. So if a and b already add up to 180, you're not going to have enough to have anything for angle c. So 154.6 plus 40 is 194.6, which is bigger than 180, so there is no second triangle. We only have the 25.4 as our angle then. So angle B equals 25.4. Next, we are going to solve then for C. So 180 minus 40 minus 25.4. We get that angle C equals 114.6 degrees. Now let's solve for side C. So the sine of 40 over 3 equals the sine of 104.6 over C. I'm going to cross multiply and plug it in my calculator, and I get C equals 4.29. Alright, looking at this triangle here, we have, I'm going to draw it. Okay, A, B, C. We have 35 degrees, 6, 8. So the first thing I'm going to do is solve for angle B. So sine 35 over 6 equals sine B over 8. I'm going to go and solve for B, and I get sine B equals 0.76. I'm going to take the inverse, and I get B equals 49.9. That's B1. Now we check B2. 180 minus 49.9 equals 130.1. So our B2 is 130.2. Now we check. Can there be two solutions? So A plus B has to be less than 130. So 35 plus 130.1 equals 165.1. So that means, yes, we can have two triangles there. So now knowing that we can have these two triangles, we're going to solve for both. And so what this ends up looking like is like this. And so we're going to go ahead and solve. So C2, we need to find C1 and C2. So C1 equals 180 minus 35 minus 49.9, and that equals 95.1. So that's the angle of C1. The angle of C2 equals 180 minus 35 minus 130.1, which equals 14.9. So the whole angle is like the 95.1, and then this small one here is the 14.9. Okay, now we have angles, and we just need to find the sides. So I'm going to set up the sine of A, which is 35 over 6, equals the sine of 95.1 over C, and C would equal 10.42. That's for the first one. Now for the second one, we have sine 35 over 6 equals sine 14.9 over C, and we get C equals 2.6. That's it. All right, last example, we have solve. So I'm going to draw my triangle again. A, B, C, and I have C equals 1, the angle is 50 degrees, and then across is 2. So this is a side-side angle triangle again, so case 2, where we can have 0, 1, or 2 triangles, and I'm going to set up and solve. So the sine of A over 2 equals the sine of 50 over 1. This would equal sine A equals 2 sine 50. I get that this equals 1.53. When you do this, you end up getting not defined in your calculator, the sine A. So when you take the inverse of 1.53, you would end up getting error or not defined, because remember, the inverse has to be between 1 or -1 and 1. So 1.53 is above that, or in your calculator you would get error. So therefore, there is no triangle. All right, let me know if you have any questions.